This is our next unit here, solving. We'll start with some 1- and 2-step equations. Then we'll go into multi-step equations, brackets, fractions, and then inequalities. First, so let's just remember some BEDMAS. Using BEDMAS, find the value of the following expressions. Break it into steps. We got to remember BEDMAS, brackets, exponents. We'll go first. These division and multiplication happens in order of left to right, so whatever is on the left goes first. And addition subtraction again works left to right. So we have to do here some multiplication. 3 times 2. So there's a 3 that's carried down. 2 times 3 is 6. And then we can go 3 minus 6, depending on how you learned it. You have 3 good guys, you have 6 bad guys. The bad guys would win. There's going to be 3 more of them. Moving on here, you have to do brackets first. And what we mean by brackets is things inside brackets. So 5 plus 2. But there's only a number inside each of these brackets, so we don't actually have to do anything with that. There are no exponents. There is no division. There is some multiplication, however. So we got to do that first. 5 times 2 is 10. Whoops, 5 times 2 is 10. 4 minus 2 is 8. And 2 times 7 is 14. And now we can move, with addition and subtraction, you can move left to right. So I'm going to do these two first. 10 minus 8 is 2. Carry down this 14. 2 plus 14 is 16. Moving on here. Again, we want to do brackets first, but there's nothing inside the brackets to do. The next thing is exponents. So we have a 4 here, and we have to do this exponents first. And we can do this exponent as well. 2 squared is going to become a 4. And 3 squared will become a 9. And there's a minus. There's a minus and a 5 still there. Now we're going to do multiplication. 4 times 4 is 16. 9 times 5 is 45. And we can subtract those. To subtract these, we're going to, I'm actually going to write, I know it says negative 45 or minus 45, but I'm going to do a positive 45 and a 16. I'm going to subtract it because we want to subtract a smaller number. And 5 minus 6, I can't do that. Got to take a 3, make this a 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. 3 minus 1 is 2. So our answer is 29. However, we do have to remember that the negative, there's more bad guys here, so we're going to make our answer negative. So that is just to get into just kind of a basic understanding of BEDMAS. When it comes to X's and Y's, though, we're going to need to follow BEDMAS, but we're first going to need to put in the number that they want us to evaluate. So we're not quite yet solving. We'll get there in a minute. But what they've said here is evaluate the following expression when x equals 5 and y equals negative 2. So it doesn't show it, but this is a times here, 3 times x. And again, it doesn't show it here, but it's a 2 times y. So I have 3, and then I've got an x. So I got 3, I don't know why it keeps popping up. 3, and then there's an x minus 2, and then there's a y. I'm going to move this up, maybe that'll stop it. And I've got x is equal to 5, so I'll put that in, and y is equal to negative 2. Now we're going to follow BEDMAS, and BEDMAS would say to do the multiplication first. So we're going to multiply 3 and 5 to get 15, minus, we're going to go 2 times negative 2. Now 2 times negative 2 is going to be negative 4. And when you have a minus and negative, that's the same thing as an addition. 15 plus 4 is going to be 19. So there, what we first did was we put in the 5 right here. We plugged in 5 for x, and we plugged in negative 2 for y. Then we followed BEDMAS. So let's try it again here. We have an 8, and then we've got an x. Now our x is going to be 5, and we've got a minus 4. And then we've got times y, and our y is negative 2, plus a 6. And again, we're going to have to follow BEDMAS. We have to do any multiplication first. So 8 times 5 is 40. And then we've got minus, and then there's a 4 times negative 2. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Now you could have thought of this as a negative 4 times negative 2. Negative 4 times negative 2 would have been a positive 8, which is actually what we'll get here because the double negative will become a positive 8. So either way could work. And we have this plus 6 that we need to carry down. Now we can work left to right. So 40 plus 8 is 48 plus the 6. And then 48 plus 6 is going to be 50. I'm going to write it horizontally here because I've run out of space. 54. All right, let's try the next one. 5. And then we've got times x. And our x here is 5. Minus, we got a 4 times a y. A y is going to be negative 2. So times it by negative 2. Minus a 2 times an x, which is a 5, and a y, which is a negative 2. Now, start here. 5 times 5. Again, following BEDMAS, there's no brackets. There's nothing to do inside the brackets. There's no exponents. And with division and multiplication, you got to work left to right. And so we're starting here on the left. There is no division, so we're going to do the multiplication. 5 times 5 is 25. Minus, there's a 4 times negative 2, which is a negative 8. Again, you could have thought of that as negative 4 times negative 2 and got a positive 8, which is what I'll get here. Minus, so there's a 2 times 5 times negative 2. Now 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times negative 2 is negative 20. Or you could have thought of this as a negative 2 times a 5 times another negative 2. So negative 2 times 5 would be 10. Sorry, negative 2 times 5 would be negative 10. And negative 10 times negative 2 would become a positive 20, which is what I'll get here. But I like to think of this as subtraction, so I carry this down. The subtraction sign carries down, and then I multiply all the numbers, and if I got a negative number, I put that negative symbol there. And now I can put these both negatives as a positive. So positive 8 and positive 20. 25 plus the 8 is going to be 33 plus the 20. 33 plus 20 is 53. So again, we're just following some BEDMAS here, but first we're plugging in whatever number they ask. So y is going to be 5, but we're going to have to square it. Oh no, 5 is x, so y is negative 2. Minus 3 times x. Now x is, just double check that now, 5. And it's squared. So I'm going to go y squared and x squared, and I got my 2 and my minus 3. So BEDMAS says do exponents first. So there's a 2, and we're going to do these exponents right here first. So that's a 2 there. I'm just trying to, oh nice. So I'm going to do that 2 first and that 2 first. So negative 2 squared is a 4. And 5 squared is a 25. And there's a minus 3. 2 times 4 is 8. Minus 3 times 25. If you don't know what that is, I can do that off to the side here. 25 times 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry that. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So it's 75. And now I have to go 8 minus 75. Again, if you don't know that off the top of your head, you can always subtract them. Now I am subtracting it in the opposite way, in that it shows a negative 75, but I got the positive. And I have here a positive 8, but I wrote negative, so I'll have to flip the signs after. 5 minus 8 I can't do, so I make that a 6, make that a 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. And then 6 minus nothing is 6. So I get 67, and now I'll flip that symbol. So I have negative 67.